Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday, December 29th. The relentless Arctic cold continues. It looks like it'll continue right through next week in much of the eastern two-thirds of the nation. This will, of course, include New Year's Eve, which is Sunday, and New Year's Day on Monday. Brutally cold air will follow a clipper system that will arrive in the Mid-Atlantic region on Saturday with some accumulating snow, and then following that will be another frigid air mass for the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday time frame. New Year's Eve in New York City, for example, Times Square, probably around 10 degrees or so around midnight. One of the coldest in the last 100 years. A Mummers Day parade in Philadelphia on Monday will be frigid indeed. In fact, temperatures to start off the new year early Monday morning in the I-95 corridor suburban regions could very well bottom out at near 0 degrees in many spots. Again, north and west of Philly, for example, north and west of New York City, interior New Jersey. Don't be surprised to see some temperatures not far from 0 degrees early Monday morning. Just a brutal air mass that will follow this clipper system for the Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday time frame. This is a forecast of the 850 temperature anomalies a couple thousand feet off the surface for the next 5 days. The current 5-day period, days 1 to 5, from last night's GFS ensemble run. Again, the impressive nature of this cold wave is that it is so extensive from the eastern slope of the Rockies all the way to the eastern U.S. coastline and all the way into the deep south down to the Gulf states. Indeed, colder than normal way down in the heart of Texas, way down in Florida, and way below normal for this time of year in the Mid-Atlantic region. And the clipper system will drop some snow on Saturday, and again will usher in an even colder air mass than the current air mass that we're in right now, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday time frame. Well, this is now showing the 850 millibar temperature anomalies for days 6 to 10, going out basically through next week to around January 8th or so. Very, very impressive and expansive area of below normal conditions. Again, generally from the eastern slope of the Rockies all the way to the East Coast and all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico region. Certainly, news-making cold will continue right through the end of next week for much of the eastern two-thirds of the nation. Well, we have a clipper system heading towards the Mid-Atlantic region. It'll cross over the northern plains today, the upper Midwest, and then into the Mid-Atlantic region for Saturday. This is the latest colorized water vapor imagery loop, and here's the moisture associated with this fast-moving system. Now, clipper systems typically are limited in their potential to put snow on the ground here in the Mid-Atlantic region for two basic reasons. One is they are indeed fast-moving systems. That's where they got the name, the term clipper. They generally originate in the southwestern part of Canada, drop quickly to the south and east across the northern plains, upper Midwest, into the Mid-Atlantic region. And limiting factor number two is simply the fact that available moisture is limited for these type of systems. They do not go any ocean areas. They originate in the interior parts of Canada, ride over the landmass of North America, the northern plains, upper Midwest, and not until they reach the East Coast do they really have access to ocean moisture. And once in a while, a clipper system will intensify rapidly at the East Coast and grab some Atlantic moisture and throw back some significant snowfall in the Mid-Atlantic region. We're looking like perhaps an inch or two of snow, especially north of the Mason-Dixon line on Saturday, maybe a dusting to an inch in the D.C. metro region. The fact that the moisture is limited will be kind of offset in this particular cold air mass because the snow to liquid ratios will be quite high, perhaps as high as 15 or 20 to 1 north of the Mason-Dixon line on Saturday. In other words, a little bit of moisture can produce a decent snow accumulation amount of an inch or two during this particular clipper event. This is in fact the total liquid equivalent precipitation expected by NOAA forecasters from last night. Notice in the I-95 corridor region, basically from New York City down to D.C., it's as low as it gets on this particular type of map. The light green shading represents 1/100th of an inch. Now, in a typical 10-to-1 snow to liquid ratio, 1/100th of an inch can produce an inch of snow on average. But given the fact that this may be 15 to 20-to-1 ratio because of the cold conditions here in the lower part of the atmosphere, we could get up to a couple of inches of snow, especially north of the Mason-Dixon line, even though moisture is very limited for this fast-moving system. Well, let's now use last night's 6Z operational run of the GFS model. We'll walk through in 6-hour increments the surface forecast maps going forward. All of these maps, by the way, from tropicaltidbits.com. Here we are this morning, Friday morning, cold, dry, basically in the mid-Atlantic region for today, way below normal. And here's the snow by early tonight across the upper part of the Midwest. In some of these areas across Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, they could see 3 or 4 inches of snow with this particular clipper system. Notice just behind the clipper, very strong high pressure over south central Canada. Strong northerly winds will follow this clipper system, ushering another frigid Arctic air mass. Let's keep moving forward here. That clipper snow starts to show up here in the mid-Atlantic region by early tomorrow morning. Could very well be snowing when you wake up in the D.C. metro region, for example, early tomorrow morning. Again, look on the heels of this clipper system. Brutal cold dropping into the upper part of the Midwest, all anchored by a very strong Arctic high pressure system. Let's go ahead another 6 hours. Not a bad look to this for snow, especially north of the Mason-Dixon line. Again, in very cold conditions, and also, by the way, very cold ground temperatures. So any snow that falls will quickly accumulate on untreated surfaces. Of course, the ground has been very cold given this extended period of below freezing temperatures here in the I-95 corridor. Now this clipper, once it does get off the coast, will tend to try to intensify, and if there's any surprises here, it will be with a more rapid intensification than what is currently expected, and that could especially impact the coastal part of New Jersey. We'll, of course, keep an eye out for that possibility later today and tomorrow. Now, let's move forward here. By tomorrow night, that clipper system moves off the coast. We basically get a drying pattern here, and the winds will start to pick up. Sunday will be quite breezy and cold here. A couple things I want to point out at this point. That high pressure area basically has control come Sunday morning. This is a Sunday morning forecast map for almost the entire eastern 2/3 of the nation here. Brutal air mass here will flow into the mid-Atlantic region following this clipper system on Sunday here. Now notice these thickness lines. These dashed blue lines represent thickness values in the lower part of the atmosphere. And they tend to drop during the day on Sunday. In other words, insinuating here that here we go by Sunday evening, late Sunday evening, a 504 thickness showing up here across the Mason-Dixon line, the Pennsylvania, Maryland border here. That is very cold air, and it's still dropping. That's the point I want to make here. We actually get the coldest part of this air mass by around Monday morning or so. Let's move forward here. Notice now, at this time, Monday morning, 498 thickness here across the central and northern part of Pennsylvania. Again, these thicknesses continue to drop during the day, Sunday and Sunday night, bottoming out perhaps Monday morning. Bottom line there, can very well be some temperatures not far from the 0-degree mark in suburban locations of Philadelphia, New York City, interior New Jersey, come Monday morning, the beginning of the new year. Even down in D.C., expect single digits early Monday morning. This is just a very, very low thicknesses for any time of the year, but even for this time of the year. When you have one of the rules of thumb we learned at Penn State was you can kind of look at the thickness values as correlated to temperatures. If you have a 504 thickness, just drop that 5, and it might translate or correlate to a temperature of 4 degrees. 498 might be a couple degrees below 0. a 5-10 thickness, drop to 5, and you get about a 10-degree temperature. Of course, that depends on snow cover and lots of other factors, but a very, very cold start to the new year. Again, one of the coldest New Year's Eve celebrations in the last 100 years in New York City, and New Year's Day will just be absolutely frigid from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. Let's keep moving forward here. A very cold indeed continues into Tuesday and Wednesday. And then by the middle part of the week, we'll be looking down to the deep south. There are signs that a storm will try to form, but it's, again, kind of shunted to the south and east with this expansive Arctic cold across the upper Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic region. Bottom line, this particular system, the odds favored forming too far off the coastline to have a big impact here during the middle part or the latter part of next week. Of course, we'll continue to monitor that over the next few days. But here we go. By Wednesday night, there's that potential storm off the southeast U.S. coastline, and it looks like at this time it'll stay off the coast. Of course, several days away. Whatever happens with respect to this storm, another shot of brutally cold Arctic air for the latter part of next week. Again, thicknesses dropping down to 498 and 504 in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region here. Just another brutal cold air mass. So the Arctic cold continues through next week. We have a clipper system that could drop anywhere from a dusting to a couple of inches of snow on the I-95 corridor during the day on Saturday. Very, very cold air to follow for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Perhaps not far from 0 degrees come Monday morning, New Year's Day. That's it for now. For VencoreWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.